Phase 5 just dropped and the changes are insane. This season, from raid overhauls to gear upgrades, is a game changer in ways you'd never expect. We're diving deep into the jaw-dropping changes that'll drastically alter how you play. Buckle up and let's get wild. First, we've got the raid changes that nobody saw coming. See, Blackwing Lair isn't just getting an upgrade, it's getting potentially 5 new upgrades. At the entrance, you can talk to Victor Nefarious to get additional affixes added to your raid. The blue trial puts an arcane bomb on a player and they have to run towards everybody to soak the mechanic. Meanwhile, the green trial puts a poison pool under a player and they have to run away or risk wiping the entire raid. The key affix to keep an eye on, though, is the black essence. This drastically changes every single boss mechanic. We're talking Firemaw having a new nature damage mechanic. We're talking Ebon Rock and Flamegore having a new 4 Horsemen style mechanic. The black essence mechanic is such a drastic change to the raid that it does seem like it'll probably be required for maximum loot and Warcraft log validation. To get as prepped as possible for all the mechanics, though, definitely check out the sheet from Multi below the video. It really explains how all these affixes work. That's not the only set of BWL changes, though, because we're finally getting flex raiding. Flex raiding means you can enter the raid with not just 20 players, but all the way up to 40 players. In theory, this will be the most pug-friendly raid tier in a really long time. Especially because some of the affixes like the blue trial are just straight up easier with more players. Unfortunately, top guilds are still likely going to stay with 20 players. The first reason is that Warcraft Logs is strongly considering making 20 mans the default. That means if you want to speedrun, if you want to parse, you're probably going to have to do 20 mans. Meanwhile, if you want to maximize your loot for split runs, for speed runs, you're probably going to want to have as few players as possible to minimize loot competition. So with the new affixes, you're probably wondering, what do you get for all the extra work? So things are still up in the air, but it's very likely you're going to get additional loot per affix you add, and you're also going to get unique cosmetics. Considering that the Black Essence is such a drastic upgrade to the difficulty levels compared to the other affixes, it does seem likely this will probably be some kind of required FX to maximize your loot. At least for now, though, we can safely assume this system's going to be pretty similar to the heat levels in Molten Core. Also part of that gear evolution, though, is new Tier 2 sets. Now we're getting specialized sets for every single spec, so if you play a tank spec, a healer spec, even melee hunters get a new set. Even more exciting, though, there are rumors we'll be getting core forged variants. That means you'll be able to take your Tier 2 set and decide if you want a Tier 1 set bonus, for example. This is an unprecedented level of customization in Classic. Would love to hear from you guys on which classes you think would benefit the most from this idea. It's not just the tier sets that are getting huge upgrades, though. Nearly every item, nearly every weapon, every trinket is getting a major upgrade. Some of the weapons, like Heart Striker, now have a chance on ranged hit to give it extra attack. Meanwhile, Claw of Cro-Magus has a chance to increase spell damage by 50 for 10 seconds. More often, though, we're getting small adjustments to stats. Things like an additional 1% crit to the Shadow Wing Focus Staff. Trinkets, though, are getting much more powerful adjustments. Classic trinkets like Mind Quickening Gem, Natural Alignment Crystal, Life Giving Gem. They're getting their cooldowns reduced from 5 minutes all the way to 2 minutes, which has some huge implications. There are also new rumored epic items for every single class, and we're talking new class quests as well. There are even some Benediction-style weapons that have multiple modes. We're talking really cool activatable features. Where exactly we get those new epic items, though, is still up in the air. Could be Blackwing Lair, could be somewhere else. To go with our BWL changes, we also have new Zul'Gurub changes. And trust me, this raid isn't going to be like anything you've seen before. For one thing, ZG is now a flex raid, so it goes from between 10 to 20 players. Realistically, if you do this 10-man, it feels way more like an Upper Blackrock Spire than an actual raid. There are some really cool changes here, though. For example, when you kill a boss, you can get a new buff from that boss. You may want to defy tradition, though, and skip killing the priest entirely. That's because most of us are expecting some sort of additional rewards for keeping the priest alive. And that would lead to a drastically more difficult Hakar, because every single priest remaining adds additional challenges. If we do end up getting additional loot for keeping priests alive, though, it would be well worth it. That's because there are new reworks to the ZG sets. There are also going to be new weapons with the Bloodied FX, cool new look, and new stats as well. This really is the ultimate catch-up raid. One underrated change to the ZG loot, though, is that there are going to be new Hakari idle enchants for every single spec. That means we can finally toss out our old fire resistance arcanums for new upgrades to stats like spell power and agility. Alongside all the new raid updates, though, there is a new world boss that has been data mined, but it could be something even bigger. What we know so far is that there's a portal on the PTR you can access right now in Silithus. Speculation is, of course, that this is the Prince Thunderant's portal, because it's located exactly where he normally would be. He might only be useful for completing your Thunder Fury quest line, but he might also be a full-fledged world boss. Another piece of rumored content would be a new dungeon coming in Phase 5. There are 3 rumored dungeons, but we might be getting none of them or all 3 of them, nobody really knows yet. The first rumored dungeon would be the Burning of Anderhall. This would be located in Eastern Plaguelands and presumably feature all sorts of chromey shenanigans. Another option we might get is the Starfall Barrow Den, presumably located in Winterspring and featuring all sorts of cool furbog bosses. Third, there's the Shadow Hold. This would likely be located in Jadenar, and considering we've already got the Demon Falls Canyon, it's probably the least likely one we get. One hint we're probably getting at least one dungeon, though, is that items like the Heart of Asgaloth have appeared on the PTR vendor. These items have no other known location, so unless Blizzard is just randomly adding items to ZG, they're probably coming from a new dungeon. It's not just new loot, though, because Phase 5 has a ton of balancing changes as well. Starting off, we have some minor additional new runes. Highlights include a new 26 Healing Ring rune, as well as a 5 MP5 rune as well. Meanwhile, Petrification Flask is essentially dead for negating mechanics, because you can no longer cancel the flask, so you're stuck in it for the whole duration. Meanwhile, Horn of Lordaeron is finally back, and is going to be a Paladin baseline ability. We originally had that rune back in Phase 1, but now it's back to try to bridge the gap between Alliance and Horde power differences. There are other major changes rumored for classes like Mages, Rogues, Shadow Priests. Mages are going to be really happy because they can create a new water that's essentially like Jungle Durians, and they can have as much as they want of it. Meanwhile, Rogue tanks, which were rumored to be completely overpowered for BWL, they got a significant 20% damage nerf. Shadow Priests, though, they lost 50% of their Vampiric Embrace healing. The trade-off is that they get 200% more critical strike damage, so they're going to do way more damage but have a little bit less utility. So you may have noticed we haven't talked about the huge economy shakeup happening in Phase 5. You're probably wondering what is going on with all the new currencies. First, we've got confirmation Firelands Embers and Emerald Chips. They're going to play a significant role in Phase 5. Firelands Embers are going to be used to buy new items in Phase 5. Things like Essence of Fire will be purchasable from the Lactose Vendor and the Grim Guzzler. Meanwhile, you'll be able to turn in Emerald Chips for a bag of herbs or enchanting materials at the Incursion vendors. And then there's the upcoming Mega Server Apocalypse. All servers on each region are going to be merged together into one PvP server and one PvE server. That means millions of gold will be combined together in an unprecedented change. We're talking drastic price changes for every single item, everything from Righteous Orbs to Arcanite Bars. These changes are going to completely redefine Phase 5, whether you're a casual player or a hardcore raider. Okay, seriously, which change do you think will actually have the biggest impact? Drop a comment below and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more crazy updates. Click on my Phase 5 prep video next to get as prepared as possible for the new phase.